I miss Blake, but I'm going to get you now.
Okay. Blake, that was awesome. I'm really it's funny how the departments kind of coexist. So my internship was with student activities, specifically focusing on Greek life. So we work super hand in hand. We did an event with athletics department one day because they use a lot of all the students in Greek life specifically for excitement and that pride. So I'm kind of familiar with athletics, not too much. I'm not a sports girl, but kind of, sort of. So my internship, again, was with student activities, specifically focusing on Greek life. And I did half of my internship last semester, so I kind of had an idea of what to expect. Last year experience wasn't the greatest, so I was really excited to see my director back because she was kind of a key player in my internship, and she went out on maternity leave last semester. So I kind of flip-flopped between conferences and events last semester, and this semester I really got a handle on kind of the student activity side. It's been interesting. It's been a lot of work, a lot of long nights, because they like to have a lot of events. So it's been interesting. It's been a great learning experience. I've learned a lot of what not to do. And how every department kind of plays a role when we talk about student activities. So I've sat in meetings and worked with public safety, which is a really big part of events for them, making sure that our students are safe, making sure that the way they come in a place, making sure the way they come out of a place, making sure all the exit plays, how many people per event will determine your budget with public safety. So there were so many behind the scenes things that I knew about, but didn't really have personal experience with that I kind of figured out. On top of that, I learned a lot about dealing with students, their wants, and how that meets the university's wants, and how to meet that happy medium with them. So I feel like a lot of this semester was about, again, relationships, kind of like with Blake. The students had to trust me with such a big part of their life, because Greek life here is a big deal, and not just with students, but for alumni too. So dealing with them and making sure that kind of both parties were satisfied was kind of really difficult. Unfortunately, this school has seen some bad moments. So the security level of it is extremely high, which has forced the university to say no to a lot of things that people are used to. So kind of the relationship with alumni was a little rough around the edges, and we had to do a lot of extra work to build that up. Budgeting is always huge for us here. We have to work on a super small budget, and students have really big ideas. So we had to kind of figure that out. Also with Greek life, we talk about hazing a lot. So at this particular school, they did not have a Greek life manual. So we kind of worked on getting that together. So right now it's in the process of review. So I helped with making that come up. I did coordinate their first Greek leadership retreat that they had up the top of the semester. So a lot of things with me were more so about development of them, because we kind of pushed them in these positions and wanted them to succeed, but we didn't train them up. So the director really wanted us to focus a lot on that. So between the handbook, the manual that we did, and the leadership retreat were kind of my big projects for this year. The manual itself has to go through a lot of layers. So the VP's office, the legal office has to review it, because a lot of that is kind of sketched in stone. You break this rule, you can possibly get kicked out of school. Especially with Greek life, with a lot of hazing incidents happening. They're they want to be cross all T's and dot all I's in this manual. So it's about a good 150 pages alone of the manual, just Greek life. So it talks anywhere from membership, intake policies. I did help out with the membership intake process this year. So making sure that all of our Greek letter organizations were on date, on schedule with all their intake policies. Advisors, I oversee NPHC, which is kind of the governing body for all of the 9 historically Black organizations, Greek letter organizations. So I did do that this semester too, on top of being an RD.
Wow.
So my life was not my own this year, but it was a good experience.
I'm exhausted just from listening to all that stuff.
Yeah, it's a lot.
Great job. How do you feel about student activities now versus residence life? Is that something you want to get into in the future?
I'm kind of on the line with Blake. I'm really up in the air. I do like housing, but I think I'm tired of living on campus. And the pressure that comes with, having someone's life kind of, in your hand with housing. There's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And although it's okay, I don't know if I want to do this forever. And then with the student life side of it, it's really long nights. It's a lot of long nights.
Yeah.
It's activity after activity, and it can become tiresome.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of like figuring it out, I guess. I haven't decided yet. I took a course in academic advising, which I really liked for some reason.
Yeah.
So that may be a direction, but I do love student life. Just probably I got to figure out the long hours.
How about the leadership development, student development aspect of what you did? Is that an interest area, kind of leadership development?
I did. I really liked doing the conference. They kind of said, here, we have this idea, go run with it. So I did everything from getting the speakers to getting the place, to setting up the format of the day, activities. So I kind of developed that, and I really, really did like that. So that's kind of another direction instead of the Greek life. I think absolutely not Greek life, because Greek life is a lot. But the activity and leadership part is kind of where I'm going, yeah.
Wow. No, you did a lot. I mean, I think that manual, too, it's so important to document best practices and policies, too.
Yeah.
We've had some issues at Penn State. A student died at a fraternity on campus.
Yep.
And probably, and we actually had, an adult advisor with that fraternity, and it's a whole story with that. It feels like there wasn't the right supervision. So policies that document, should there be an adult advisor when there is an activity at the house, and how all that should work. And I mean, I'd like to see some drinking limit, where you have out tickets or something like, I don't know, some control.
Yeah. It's really hard. We're actually a dry campus, but that's so far from true.
Yeah.
Especially when it comes to homecomings or Greek life, you easily see people out, and it may not be like in a bottle or a beer bottle, but it'll be in a cup. And it's there, but how do you, the rules are so gray.
Yeah.
Nothing really black and white when it comes to that. Yeah.
Well, the other thing you might want to think about is just skipping all that together and just be a vice president for student affairs. You know what I mean? You've gotten exposure to all that. So, I mean, if that's part of your career path.
It requires another level of school, though. I'm not too sure about that part.
And it's always, but something to think about.
Yeah.
For you. There's a good program at University of Delaware. Program that I know a little bit about, and people there. And then Drexel has an online program that wouldn't be too far, but you could do it fully online and then participate in their activities. I'm hoping Penn State has an online doctoral program sometime in the next 5 years. We're working on it. But it feels like you've gotten good exposure, and you've got some leadership ability, and just don't be a program director. Just be the boss. And go home at 5 o'clock.
I wish I could jump to it. Director status, yeah.
I think we kind of make everybody pay their dues and work their way up. But that would be a good career path for you, since you've gotten such great exposure to. Or if you wanted to go in the academic affairs route and academic advising, that would certainly be another.
Yeah, I'll probably get bored. I kind of like being out there. Residence life is not behind the desk situation. Even now with our crisis, it's, they're in my office here. So, out here, should I say. It's never a normal day. I feel like academic advising might just be too black and white for me.
Too boring, yeah.
Yeah. So I'm going to try to figure it out.
You're very good at what you do. Well, I know we want to let you go. Are there any questions for Rose before we let her go for the evening? And serve students? All right, Rose.
Thank you, guys. Have a good one.
Thanks for joining us.
Thanks. Bye.
See you later. Okay. All right, Holly, you want to go next?
Hi, everyone. Okay, so I've had a really great experience with my internship. I even jotted down some notes here, so I wouldn't forget what I wanted to say. So what we did, just to recap for everybody, what I did was, so for the past 16 years, I've been in admissions, and much of what I've done was with the recruitment end of enrollment management. And so I love it. I love admissions. I love the whole enrollment aspect of it. But I wanted to see what the other end of it was, and what that entailed. And so my supervisor and I decided that what I would do is focus on the retention end of enrollment management. And so in doing that, one of the things that we wanted to target was the adult learner population on our campus, because over the past 5 years, we've dropped in enrollment as far as or our total enrollment, but our adult learner population too. And that's really a place where we can see growth happen, especially with our demographics. I work at Penn State Du Bois, and with the whole demographic, smaller high school graduation classes, we have fewer students to pull from. Plus, not only that, we have a service area. Every campus in the Penn State system has a set service area that we can go and recruit students from. And so because of the declining graduation classes in the high schools, we know that our bread and butter is going to be with the adult learner population. So wanted to focus on that. And I actually it was really cool because all of the courses that I took through this program, this master's program, I was able to kind of incorporate all of the knowledge that I've gained from that into this internship. So it was really cool to see how it could all fit together. So one of the things that I did learn was how important collaboration is with all areas and all departments on campus, because when we decided to focus on the adult learner aspect of the retention end, I planned a focus group. I thought that would be one of the best ways to get input and feedback from our current students. So, I marketed all of, to all of our adult learners, this particular program. We fed them. That's always a big thing, as probably all of you know. If you want to get students to attend anything, you feed them, right? Yeah. So we fed them lunch. We had a nice group of students. Actually, we had about a 14% attendance from our adult learner population, which, it's hard because you can't make students come, but you can do what you can to try to, encourage their participation. It actually, when I asked the questions to them, I tried to incorporate everything. So you guys probably know of, Aston's IEO model, input, environment, and then of course output. And so this was a way that I was able to find out what they're bringing with them, why did they come? Why did they come to college? Why did they enroll into higher education? And what was their experience like on the way in for them, through the admissions process and all of that. Then, I asked questions about what their experience has been like as students here on our campus. So we focused on faculty and inside the classroom. I focused on student engagement and what can help them, what can they do without. Also academic advising and disability services, also the courses, the registrar end of things, and financial aid and what types of things that they're getting from their education and getting out of it. And then, of course, all of that, what are we doing right and what can we improve on to help them persist to graduation, which is, of course, the output part of it. So they're not there yet. They're not at the output because they're current students, but what are we doing right? Where can we make some improvements? I shared those results with the entire campus community because I felt that, we all are in this together. Without our students, we're not here. So we have to work collectively and collaboratively to, read the results and then work to make those changes. So that's been really eye-opening. And people have been great. All departments have been really responsive and excited to be able to, make those improvements. Just making sure here that I focused on everything.
Oh, yeah, I just want to share that I read your capstone paper, and you did a beautiful job.
Thank you. Thank you.
Dr. Paulson, I'm sure will agree with me. She'll be getting you feedback. But I kind of served as a second reader. And I was talking to Blake a little bit about that before. You would be a good person to talk to about that course and what it's all about, too.
Oh,
so, I don't want to get you away from your internship.
Oh, no, that's okay.
I thought it was smart of you to do the internship and the capstone, and then to have all that literature background that you did.
It was really an awesome experience this semester with being able to tie in kind of both. My focus on the adult student retention for this particular internship. So getting that firsthand experience on that, and then, also using that information for the capstone scholarly paper.
Yes.
So, I couldn't have asked for a better experience.
No, that really worked well.
It did. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. But I think I covered everything. Like I said, it's been such a eye-opening, wonderful experience. I know this is where higher education is where I was meant to be, but I really and truly enjoy enrollment management. Yeah. And that's where I want to be. I want to be able to not just be admissions, but someday, hopefully, be able to promote myself to enrollment manager.
Absolutely. No, I love your campus. I spent some time up there, and they're good for people that don't know the Du Bois area. There really aren't any other educational providers. I think maybe there's a technical institute, business school, something like that. Holly, and then
we have Triangle Tech, which is the technical end of things. We used to have the Du Bois Business College, but it closed.
That went under. That's interesting.
Yes,
but there's no community college, right?
There's BC3, the Butler County Community College. They have a campus right down the road in Brockway. They have so that's a
little competition there.
A little bit of competition there, but then we have Clarion, which is 45 minutes away, and we have in Clearfield we have Lock Haven, Clearfield.
So there is some competition there.
We do, yes.
Yeah. But I would say that now you have expertise in the adult learner and how to recruit the adult learner and what's important.
Yes.
To the adult learner, because my sense is in years past, when you had a strong continuing education outreach unit, they tended to be the people that would reach out to adults that wanted to come back part-time or complete their degree or get specialized training. And my sense is that unit probably isn't as strong as it used to be, and maybe admissions could take over more of that responsibility. It's just my observation.
You have a really great observation there, because really the outreach end of of that is on our campus, they typically go into businesses and try to maybe do some certificate courses. You know, I mean, they can recruit some of the students who maybe have, you know, all that expertise and that experience in the field that they're working in. So, like, for instance, the engineering part of it, because we have a lot of materials, the materials, can't think of the right word.
Powdered metals?
Yes, thank you. Powdered metal companies in our area. Thank you.
Oh, you're famous for that. Yes.
So, you know, there's where we can grab some of those students from those companies into our, you know, we have a 4-year engineering program with a materials focus.
Yes.
And then we have a 2-year mechanical engineering technology degree. So that's where we can promote those programs. But, you know, a lot of them are just looking at picking up 1 or 2 classes here, getting a certificate.
Yes.
So that's primarily what they're doing at this point.
Well, I just think that's a great area, you know, particularly if the campus wants to expand their enrollments and then retain more adult learners. You know, maybe you take a course or 2 for a certificate. Well, maybe if I take a few more courses, I can get a bachelor's degree.
Yes.
Could I take some online courses and some on-campus courses, you know? So, you know, what I would call degree completion. How do I get a general business degree or a general liberal arts or leadership degree or whatever we could offer to the adult learner? It's always been a struggle.
It has, and you know, you're exactly right. A lot of the adult learners are baby steps. They want the baby steps, and like you said, maybe if they take a couple classes, get a certificate, then we can say, hey, you have these many classes. You have all of these classes that could go towards an associate degree. How about it? You know, so that's.
And I mean, the other thing I think. You know, Penn State, the fact that you're part of the Penn State community, okay, that's got to help sell the Penn State because you're part of the bigger thing, and you're not too far if you want to go to a football game, be part of the campus, that kind of thing. So I just think compared to the other institutions, Penn State might have a leg up in recruiting people that, you know, would want to have the Penn State degree or certificate, whatever the case might be. So. No, I think you positioned yourself, if you're going to stay at Penn State Du Bois, to be a very valuable person.
Thank you.
I wish you.
I love it. I can't see myself anywhere else, to be honest.
No, I wish you every luck and success. We might come back to you in case people have questions about the capstone. Would that be all right?
Absolutely.
Okay. Good, Holly. You've been through. I don't know if Adam's online too. I don't know if Adam, were you in the capstone too?
Yes.
Okay, great. Well, I think between you and Holly, maybe at the end, Adam, we can just, you know, if anybody has questions about the capstone as they're going into that, whoever's taking that in the summer. I know Blake and how about you, Brittany? Are you and Caitlin, are you ready for the capstone in the summer?
Yes, I'll be taking it.
Okay, I thought that's what you said before. How about you, Caitlin?
This is the 5th class for me, so I'm taking 3 classes this summer, and then hopefully, I don't know how it is with working full time and taking an extra.
Okay, so maybe later.
Extra class, so.
You're not quite ready yet, right?
Yeah.
Okay, good. I don't know. For some reason, I thought you were further along than that, but no. Okay. Well, Brittany, maybe we can hear from you next. Would that be all right?
Yeah, that's fine. So this semester I was in the Conduct, Compliance, and Inclusion office here on campus at UVA-Wise, where I'm currently employed. So I'm in residence life, and I said last time that I know somewhere down the line that I was going to phase out of residence life because just like Rose, me and Rose, we have similar positions, except for she's at a larger institution. I'm at a small institution. Just a lot, living on campus and being responsible for people's lives, and then all the problems that come with residence life. Sometimes I'm just over it, and I said, let's look out and see what another aspect was. And since I was on conduct board when I was a student here, I said, let me look at that part in the administration world. So my overall experience was great. I work with 3 ladies in our office, the vice chancellor, so she's in there, one of the vice chancellors, she's in there, the clery and conduct administrator, Stephanie, who was my direct supervisor, she's in that office, and then our Title IX coordinator. So I got, I guess, the best of all 3 worlds. So that's where I was at. And biggest goal of the semester was to update 2,300 files all by hand from academic year to calendar year. Took me about 6 weeks to do it. So that was very interesting. And the reason for that is because of the clery compliance. Students, when they have an offense on campus, had to be changed. So they were, for example, 13, 14, and I had to figure out, was the offense done in the year of 13 or was the offense done in the year of 14? Then depending on when the incident was done, that's what made that file become either a 13 or 14. Another important aspect of that was kind of something that you can't really learn. You just have to pay attention. A lot of things were by dates, and people who work in the office in the past were just being, I guess, not paying attention. And that's an important aspect, because when something is going back to be looked at, whether it's for, academic purposes or Title IX purposes, because those two kind of go hand in hand, if somebody wasn't paying attention and found a student incorrectly, that could be his or her, life or career on campus. So paying attention was a very crucial aspect of trying to make sure that you didn't file it for incident date versus sanction date. And that literally was just, you have to pay attention. And I've realized that a lot of institutions, they lack in that area. Students are transferred here, or, like people, so when another student or student wants to go to a job elsewhere, a lot of jobs will call and say, hey, I need to see X, Y, and Z for this student. And I've just realized that a lot of things was just misfiled. It wasn't, and that looks bad on us, because if we have to go back and look for something, and if it says, this student was here 13, 14, and I go back and look and say, no, student's not even here, I mean, that's a major problem. So it looks bad on multiple aspects, not just academics or conduct, but later in life, if somebody wants to be a police officer, I've got that request the most. State troopers want to see students' files from their whole time at school, and if I can't produce that, that should mean that student didn't have any conduct issues, but because of people not paying attention, that wasn't the case. So that's something that I couldn't learn. That's just something that I had to pay attention with. And also Title IX, since that office is there as well, that information is crucial and it's very secretive. So, if I pull a file for student A, I have to make sure that it's student A and that their student ID number is, 55555 and not 555615. So, I mean, that's very crucial. That was a big part of that. And I think you don't really realize it until you do it. And people are like, oh, it's okay, just file under Brittany Jones. But there's multiple Brittany Joneses on campus, so you just can't file under Brittany Jones. You have to file under Brittany Jones and her ID number. So, I mean, that was the biggest problem, the biggest issue, a lot of frustrations. A lot of people, too, in the past, were people in residence life, because residence life does affect this. If Brittany Jones got in trouble, and there was another Brittany Jones that got in trouble, that was her name spelled correctly? Was we sure it wasn't Brittany Jones 521 versus Brittany Jones 679? But thankfully, I guess the one good thing about working in residence life is that I could catch stuff like that. And I caught that plenty of times where people had the same names. Mullins is a common last name here, very common. And people would just, there would be 3 different files for Sarah Mullins, and it's the same person. So you have to go back and look, okay, is this the same Sarah Mullins that did A, B, and C? And it was the same Sarah Mullins that did A, B, and C. So that was very crucial. Another thing that came up in my time in the office, being that the Dear Colleague letter has come out, students, I know here in Virginia, students can go to the registrar's office and decide to change their name, so I can become Brandon Jones if I wanted to. But my question was to Stephanie, what happens if Brittany Jones has a file, in her freshman year, but then in her junior or senior year, she wants to identify as Brandon Jones? How does that look in the conduct office? Nobody ever heard that question. And being that we have a lot of students that are transgender now, or, choosing to identify, as male or female, and they used to be, previously male or female, that question came about. And then literally, I want to say maybe 3 weeks later, we had the incident. There was a girl who, she identified her freshman year as a female, and now she identifies as a male. What does that look like in the conduct office? So we had to research that to figure that out. And I mean, since it's kind of new, an emerging trend, we had to come up with our own per se policy of how we're going to deal with that. So essentially, that file says, see Brittany Jones's file, but Brandon Jones's file says, see Brittany Jones's file. Because since Brittany Jones was a student and active, in 08, 09, and now she's Brandon Jones, now he's Brandon Jones and is active in 11, 12, you can't get rid of Brittany Jones because that was a person, but now Brandon Jones, is still a person with the same ID number attached to Brittany Jones. So that was interesting. And I guess, I don't have any problem with, how they want to identify, but thinking about that in long terms, that could be chaotic if things aren't filed correctly initially. So that was a learning process, very interesting. So I had to go back and recheck files because we had an updated list of, students that went to the registrar's office and asked for identity change. They asked, and so they had to sign off on a form saying that this was going to go to the conduct office. So I had to go back and check to make sure that those files were labeled, see this file and then see that file so that they matched. So that was interesting. And I guess, moving forward, as I think about higher education, these are things that we don't really think about because if it doesn't happen to us or if, a student, in our radar, why would you think about it? And the only reason why I thought about it is because we had to, in the residence hall, I had a student who wanted to be identified as a male and she lives in a female floor. So we had to figure that out. And that's the reason why that question, came about. So we kind of moved forward there. So that was interesting, very interesting. A problem that we ran into is that since this is a predominantly white institution, and that office before I entered was a predominantly white office, and we are now a part of inclusion, there was an issue that had come up about, a person of color. And being that nobody in that office except me was a person of color, I think identifying the issue and coming up with a problem was an issue because essentially, if you're not a person of color, why would you think about that? Why would that register your brain? And how would you think of a conclusion? Yeah. Or how would you even address that if you've never had to deal with this? So, thankfully I was there. And the good thing about UVA-wise is that it's a small school and we all you wear multiple hats. So I don't think it would have been an issue for somebody to reach out to me. But the problem was, this is an issue that addresses students of color. And none of our administration even look anywhere like our students. Yeah. So, all white women, and then student of color issue, they had no idea, how to address it. And it was I could share it. It was a hair issue. A girl, natural, becoming natural. So that means no chemicals. Somebody made an offensive comment about her hair and she, kind of went into a panic attack and they knew nothing about natural hair or why she was even upset, why she was even mad. But being that I'm a person of color and I'm natural as well, I brought insight on that topic, which they had no clue about. So was this a problem? Yes. Was it a racial comment? Yes. But the problem was, how do we deal with that? Thankfully, I was there, but, I just realized that a lot of our administration don't represent what our student body looks like. Mm-hmm. And being that more students of color are entering higher education, whether it's in the community college form, undergrad, graduate level, I see that that's another problem that, might have to be addressed, and how do institutions deal with that? So that was probably the biggest I'm not gonna say problem I had, but the biggest issue was just like, wow, what would have happened if I wasn't here? What would have happened if, I was off that week? Because that literally happened the week I came back from Italy, and it was like, what if this would have been a week before? I wouldn't have been here. I'm the only person of color in a student life, and it's 22 of us. So what would they have done if Brittany, wasn't there? Accessible because I was overseas. Yeah. So, I just think about stuff like that.
Yeah. And you were okay with being asked for your opinion?
It didn't bother me because it's obviously, my essential goal is to be here for the students. And if talking about hair and the process and how that's hurting and damning and frustrating to people, it doesn't bother me. But I think, something as small as that, they understood, wow, that there's a bigger picture to this, and that we don't know, what problems you all have with hair. We don't know that. Yeah. We didn't know that this could be offensive. So it's still being investigated. But it's just I just thought about that. Something so small as that was a big issue, and no one knew how to per se address it. So that was interesting.
We've got a long way to go, Brittany, on all those. I don't know if I mentioned to you, but 35, 40 years ago, I was the OCR compliance person that would visit Virginia colleges and universities to see if they were compliant with Title VI.
Okay.
They were taking affirmative steps to recruit students and to recruit African Americans to faculty and staff positions. So it's a little disheartening for me now to hear 40 years later, we've got to still have a long way to go here. But I think they're lucky that they have you. They recruited you as a student, and then you stayed working wise then, right?
Yeah, because I was a student on conduct board. So, because the way our conduct system goes, we have a student panel, and I was just on it. And then, so when I was thinking about, my internship, okay, I can go back to the conduct office. At the time, the vice chancellor, she was the person over conduct. Now she's a vice chancellor. So I loved working with her. I don't know if you know her, but Jewel Worley, she's been here for a while.
Ben, you were an undergraduate student there too.
Correct. Right? Mm-hmm. So I just said, okay, well, since I already know these people, let me go back and work there. So I don't think they had any problem. They had a prior relationship with me, so I think that made it easier. But also, when I was talking to them about it and educating about that, a lot of African American women do not like when people talk about hair. That's just...
Yeah. Well, there's a lot of cultural insensitivity.
Right. Yeah. So people, I've heard when people say, oh, don't ask me to touch my hair. I don't care. I just don't want you to come up and touch my hair. But a lot of people, that bothers them. So, essentially, it could be a difficult topic for some people. But for me, I think because I know them, had prior relationships, it was easier. And I think it helped them because it helped them understand and understand that, it's bigger than what they could even think of. So.
No, I'm sure that you provided great advice on that, as you will a lot of things that happen on campus. Yeah, 35 years ago, what they would say, it was then Clinch Valley College. Well,
right.
We can't get African American students to come out here to the western part of the state. We can't get faculty. It was always we can't. And I hope they're saying we can now. So,
that
would be a step forward. You've got to have the right attitude to be able to recruit and retain a diverse student, diverse faculty and staff.
There is another, so I'm the only one in student life, and there's, I think, 22 of us. And then there's another, we just got a chief of staff to the chancellor, and she's a woman of color, so she's in the chancellor's office. And then I know of 2 professors, more than what I had when I was here. So, there's some. But, I guess I never thought about, when I had to tell my mama this, she was like, they asked you about your hair? And I was like, yes, mother. But she never thought that would be something that's crucial. But then she had to think about it. When she brought me here in 2008, she realized that there was no one that looked like her daughter. And was her daughter going to be safe? And was she going to be okay? And how was everything going to be? So she identified with that. And so I guess that's why I like being in residence life, because I know that when parents come and they see me, they're just like, there's somebody that looks like my child on this campus. Absolutely. Versus all white people. And, there's some negative connotation and, the stuff that's going on. So I get it, I understand. But I think that was the most changing moment, because I was just like, oh, wow, I don't think I realized that something, to me, I know the struggles of it would be a student issue that somebody would have to ask me, how do we process this? Like, I guess I never thought about that.
That's what I call like a critical incident, because it's memorable and meaningful, and in this case, you made a wonderful contribution to their understanding. In a way, when you're the only one, then that's a challenge for you, but it's also, from the perspective of the institution, you're a very valuable person that they want to develop, hopefully, and retain, hopefully to a leadership role. And then, once you get to a leadership role, then you're the decision maker.
Right.
Of having a diverse staff and student body and advocating for change. I think that's what we're missing in a lot of institutions. We just don't have people of color in leadership roles where they're in a position to advocate for change. And I don't mean the diversity officer is almost always a person of color.
Right.
I mean student affairs and academic affairs and deans of colleges and the like. So I hope in your lifetime, dear, you see that more change than I've seen.
Yeah, I hope so.
But no, it sounds like you had a great experience. All that paperwork is important, as you know, with compliance. Like if you don't have everything in order, when there's a clery review or a legal issue comes up or a lawsuit's filed, you're really in trouble. So all that documentation of the files is important. And I'm just wondering if you have any more interest now in student life or compliance issues. I'm not saying like student conduct. I mean, student conduct, or do you want to stay in student life?
I guess I could fluctuate. Like I said, I know that sometimes in my residence life, I'm just like, I'm over it. I'm just tired of it. But what I will say is that there was a grant that was written in that office for a conduct coordinator to be written in, so that Stephanie could solely be the clery person. So a lot of clery stuff she just told me about, I really wasn't like, full in with it because of, the stuff that comes with it. And I understood. So she was just kind of like, well, it has to look like this. But, because she's on a certain committee and, certain privacy rights, I understood it. But they actually just wrote a grant for a conduct officer to be written in. And if that grant is approved, then I will be that person.
Oh, great.
So,
I think that's great experience. Particularly if you're thinking of higher level administration, anything to do with external compliance.
And I would be a part of that inclusion piece as well, which I think is beneficial because, that one incident, a parent was looking for, confirmation that we knew about it and was on it. And so, I think for me that it was deeper for me because I understand the root of the problem. So, and that would be great. My internship can turn into another job. It would be great. But I think I would still be sad to leave my residents and my staff for next year.
You get attached to that. You get attached to the students.
Yeah.
Well, that's a great report. You have a lot to write about. So I look forward to seeing your paper too.
Will do. All
right, great. Okay. Caitlin, I see you up there. Are you ready to share?
Yep. So just a reminder what I was doing. I was working in the Global Engineering Engagement Office at Penn State main campus. But with working full-time as a teacher, I had to do a lot of my stuff online. And so what I was working on was mapping engineering courses from Penn State to global or abroad institutions so that to encourage students to study abroad. So I worked on 13 separate institutions from 12 different countries and 4 different continents. And I worked through, some of the highest sought locations for students in engineering to want to go and study, and also some of the highest top engineering programs in the world so that we can encourage engineers to go and study abroad. While I was doing my internship, I found out that from some of the biggest engineering programs at Penn State, so like civil and electrical, they make up so much large student population, but less than 10% of the students are actually studying abroad. And that number is so low, but then one of the top 10 things that employers look for when they're hiring people are study abroad experience.
Yeah.
So the engineering office is trying to figure out ways to make sure that they can get more of their engineers to study abroad. So that was kind of what I was doing, is doing the back end work of finding the courses, so that the students, when they were going onto the websites, they weren't having to go and like search through the website, deal with translating things and finding the courses that would match and work for them. It was really monotonous to work on 13 different institutions. I mean, that was pretty much my main job the whole time, was working on those different institutions throughout the time. So very monotonous. And it was, of course, like once I got set, like going on one course and like understanding the website of one school, I would finish it, and then I'd have to go to another school and try to figure it out. I had a lot of trouble with the one school in Germany, mostly because of obviously I don't know German. I'm also not an engineer, so I don't know engineering terms. So trying to figure out what the German was saying plus what the engineering terms were to translate them and figure it out was really difficult. But it really made me think about, if I was an advisor in that situation or a student in that situation, how frustrating it would be. I know just in general, like as a student at Penn State, I had a really hard time. I always wanted to study abroad. And being an education major, but also a math education major, it was really hard to find an area that was good with education, but also good with math. And anytime I talked to advisors, they would basically kind of be like, oh, well, here are the ones for education, but go talk to the math advisor to figure out about math. And then I would go to the math one, they'd be like, oh, well, go talk to the education advisors because they're your education. So it was always really difficult because obviously they don't know both sides of it as the advisor. And for the student, it's just frustrating. So it was nice to be like, okay, I'm experiencing all these frustrations. It's really difficult for me, but I'm doing this to help a student so that they don't have to deal with the frustrations. So that was kind of what helped push me through a lot of it. And plus my husband's a computer scientist, so he knew a bunch of tricks of how to translate things that I never would have known. So thankfully he was here to help me out. But it also helped me see, like, obviously if I was working in an institution, having those connections with people would be really useful, because if it was German, go and I know someone that speaks German, I could go talk to them how to. So that was really awesome. But I also worked, after doing all the mapping, I did do some creating some fact sheets for those 13 institutions. So that was pretty cool to work through, picking out obviously all the information that I had figured out, putting it in a very concise way, because I had found 50 to 100 different courses for each institution. So costs and things like that was really fun. And I got to actually work with Nicole on that, which is the other intern that was in the global engineering engagement office. So we kind of pulled our strengths together, because I had done a lot of the research on the courses and she had done the research on scholarships, and she's a writer and I'm a math person. So she was able to write it very well and like concisely. And so it was really cool to pull our strengths together and work together.
Oh, good. Yeah, I'm so glad that worked out for you too. Good.
Yeah, it was really useful, and it was nice to work with someone and figure out kind of what people are doing in an office normally, since I was working alone for most of it and at home.
Yeah. No, you two have a lot in common, I know, and she really enjoyed collaborating with you. She told me last week.
Oh, great. That's good to know.
That was good.
Yeah, I definitely think it helped to just kind of work through that, even though it was really monotonous. I think it was really, especially working full time, I learned how to like plan my schedule out, because as a teacher, my schedule just goes off of the students' schedules. I've never really had to like sit and actually plan out a week, but I definitely had to, because I'm working full time. I'm coaching middle school track. I'm in this course, and I'm in college teaching course.
Wow. Wow.
Yeah.
So who are you teaching for?
I teach at Young Scholars Charter School down in State College.
Very good.
Yeah. So it was just really great to kind of see that side of, obviously there's lots of different things happening.
Yeah. No, you're doing a lot.
In an office, so you really have to plan your time to make sure you do things. Yeah. But it was great. I definitely enjoyed it. It really made me realize that like the best thing about what I was doing was that it was for the students to help them out, which is what I enjoy about teaching. So I know that I still want to work with students when I get into higher education. And I think that doing the research of engineering and not being an engineering person, I really learned that because I'm going to be an academic advisor at some point. So I learned that even if I'm not advising in math or education, I could advise in another area and still learn a lot and be able to explain that with all the research I was doing. So it was really, very educational. And I know that I want to be, and things are changing constantly. And that's always something that's going to happen when you're working with students, because it definitely was a little bit too monotonous at times.
Yeah, and the whole study abroad, how challenging that can be, or why students don't think of it.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, I know that there are so many things out there that are what I would have assumed were true, but that I learned really weren't, like costs and things like that. I didn't realize that for Penn State, if you are an out-of-state student, studying abroad is actually probably cheaper, because most of the study abroad costs are based on in-state tuition. So I never knew that. I wasn't out of state, so I never thought about it. But when we actually sat down, and Sarah Coleman, the one that I was working with, she showed me all the costs and everything. And she's like, so, out of state students can study abroad for the Penn State tuition of in-state, and then even flight and all that, it's usually cheaper for them to study abroad than to pay the out-of-state tuition.
Interesting. Well, that's a great report, Caitlin. Thanks so much for sharing.
Thanks. Yep.
I just want to, I know we're at the 8 o'clock hour, so I don't want to keep all of you, but I do want to, maybe we could have Adam talk a little bit, and Holly, both of you, about your capstone experience, and see if there are any questions about the course or anything. Just reflect a little bit on that, or give folks a preview of the capstone. And then Adam, we can hear about your internship. And as I said, we got Jamie on the line too, so we'll wrap up with Jamie's report. But if you have to
be short and sweet.
All right, if you have to leave, feel free to do that. But Jamie, before we get to you, I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit about the capstone with Holly and Adam. Then any reflections or things that they want to share, and then we'll keep going. So Holly, do you want to start with that, and then we'll hear from Adam?
Sure. Well, I don't know if we should start with any questions. Does anybody have any questions about the course first?
That there's time. The time is short. I know one question was how much do you spend on the content of the course versus writing the paper?
Okay. I would probably say the majority of it was writing the paper, I would say.
Okay.
And then there's fewer, there's small assignments each week. But I think that Dr. Paulson did a wonderful job giving us the appropriate time for the paper.
Okay.
There were times where, we had an assignment, but it was maybe 1 or 2 assignments over the course of 2 weeks, so that we could focus the majority on our paper. And that I think said a lot about the importance of the paper.
Okay.
And so that really helped, because we were able to not only, get our assignments completed, but focus really on the scholarly paper that we had to do. One of the things that you will do is, during the course of the program, or the semester, the course, you'll be in groups, and you'll be peer reviewers, and you'll have a couple other people in your group. Like, for instance, I had 3 people in my group. So I would submit my first draft. The other 2 would read it and give me feedback. And that was part of the grade too. And that was really a cool experience, because then I was able to read their papers and provide my feedback to them. And that really helped me with guiding myself through my own paper by reading their papers, giving them feedback, but also receiving their feedback on my paper. So it was, I think that Dr. Paulson did a really great job in allotting enough time for each thing.
Okay, good.
I feel overwhelmed.
So even in the shortened summer session, it's doable. I know it was last year.
Yes, absolutely.
Okay,
I believe that 100%.
Yeah, I think you'll find as you're giving feedback, as you mentioned, that helps you as well, because you start to see things in your own paper when you're reading somebody else's that, well, I didn't do that quite right, so I need to go back and fix that kind of thing. That's great. Holly and Adam, any further comments about the capstone? And then we'll let you talk about your internship experience.
No, you kind of hit exactly what I was about to say. Is sometimes you fill in the blank because you also have common knowledge, or it's what you want to do, right? So I did mine on Title IX. So I've been on a lot of boards and I've been a lot of research, and I like that kind of stuff. And so I would fill in some of the knowledge that wasn't in the paper in my head. And so having somebody else read it, and then also sometimes they could point out the low-hanging fruit. Like you just sit there and they're like, oh, why didn't you mention this? It's like, oh man, that's, I did, one of my peers did on SATs, and I was like, you never mentioned the fact they had this writing section and then it disappeared. He's like, oh yeah, like that's so easy. And that's another page or two that was just an easy thing that he could add, or how you layer. So I do better when we have these kind of sync sessions. Like I think sometimes it's nice to see people editing your paper, but really when everyone came together and we had set up appointments, and when we had those, they were super beneficial. And I actually really love to see the progress of my peers' papers as well as mine from draft 1 to the final.
Well, you did a fabulous job. I know a little bit about Title IX because I was a compliance officer years and years ago, and the issue back then was Title IX athletics. But
right,
I thought that was so well done. You need to present that either to your colleagues at your institution, to a professional association, or get that published, man, because that's a great primer. Could be a chapter in a student affairs book. That was really well done.
Thank you.
So
I definitely wanted to do something a little different than it was. I took a more challenging approach to it, but I really wanted to do something that I thought was important, but also something that I didn't see a lot of research on. So
no, and you've got a unique perspective, as I do. I'm a white male, so whenever I'm looking at racial issues or gender issues or even disability issues, I'm uniquely unqualified, and maybe that makes us objective. I don't know, but I always have had an interest in that area, and particularly with Title IX compliance with respect to sexual assault. It's just an important issue that we need to pay more attention to and understand all of that from a legal perspective as well as a moral perspective on campus. So you did a great job. I hope Dr. Paulson feels as good about that as I did. I'm sure she will. Well, let me hear a little bit about your internship, Adam. And if anybody has to sign off, feel free. I'm recording this, so you can always go back and watch the recording. I don't want to hold people up. If you've got other things, I always feel, Caitlin, after you told me all the things you're doing, I don't want to hold you up from grading papers or anything like that. So, but thanks so much for sharing. So, we'll wrap up the evening with Adam and then Jamie as well.
All right, so I can do that briefly. Let me see if I can do screen share. So something that I did like I said before, mine was a little bit different. My internship was probably a little bit more out of frustration. So as you can tell, so this is, and this is something that Brittany and Rose would probably know a little bit more about as well. So this was our duty law. This is our on-call protocol. So this is it for a suicide attempt. You can see right there on the bottom. So what the primary on duty, so what an RD would kind of do, and it says basically call the counselor on call, and then they'll follow up with emergency. So that's what somebody that is either a graduate student or is a part-time person that maybe is a former RA, not necessarily guaranteed. And that's kind of the training they got for dealing with suicide. So I was kind of frustrated with this. As you can tell, with any of these incidents, you just, pull one off there. With a missing student, you call, the director of housing. And if she's gone, you call this other person. And that's all it tells you to do. That's all your resources. So what I did, and what I actually really loved, was the fact that I found that we have great peers. So I looked at some peer institutions and aspiring institutions that we do research with. I reached out to all of them, as well as my former university, University of Maryland. And right here, I have special thanks to all those that actually answered my email and helped me, which was great. But I created a kind of what our philosophy would be, what they'd expect for an RA to be, maybe some different procedures. And you can say, right here, with marijuana, what you'd expect the RAs to have to do. What is a primary on staff? What would you kind of expect to do? What is something that the next level would do? So I think it's also that professional development, what is the next person above you doing? And then really something that my institution wanted me to really kind of focus on as well is what does follow up the next day look like? Yeah. So what is the next business day, or who's taking the reins from there? So you can see this is kind of what I turned that grid into a elaborate page, a pretty long kind of duty manual. So that was what I focused a lot of my time on, as well as training. So I've actually decided to do 2 case studies. So besides the basic PowerPoint that would probably go with kind of pulling the duty log. So I pulled real incidents that happened. So I changed the names, the location, the building locations. Actually, there's still buildings on campus here, but they're not the ones that the incident happened on. And pretty much took that similar incident report and changed it. And so one of them is a Title IX stalking kind of case. So to figure out, because as a resident life professional and really any of that, campus safety and a lot of the other offices are going to look for us for that information, or, what to do. So what do we actually giving our, like you said, maybe grad student, maybe former RA, what are we giving them? So that's kind of where I went with this case. I pretty much just changed the names and the locations. So that was a case that exactly happened with a student who basically had a stalker put a phone number under their door on campus. So they got into our buildings and all went that far. So kind of, and then the follow-up would be what would the expectations be as part of training? And then the other one is just a drug, because we actually do drug searches here. So just that's more of a procedural kind of question of what would kind of happen. So I really focused my internship on what kind of training I felt like it was a gap, and then how that would really work. So I really enjoyed it. And like I said, mine came out of probably a little bit of a place of frustration, but something that I also wanted to have a legacy, or something that would stick around, hopefully for years afterwards, or that they're going to tweak it, but at least I felt like the base of what I did is going to live on.
Wonderful. Have you done training yourself, Adam?
Have I participated in those kind of trainings?
No, I mean led a training.
No, I've not necessarily. So I mean, maybe a session, but never a full kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, it feels like you've got the skills to do that if you see that in your future. Did you take the college teaching course?
I did. I am taking that right now, actually.
Oh, okay, good.
Actually, for that exact reason. So a lot of times you teach RA class, but also I think I like to go probably higher in administration, and I think that if I am teaching training or coordinating training or trying to figure that out, that those could also be great things to have.
Yeah, no, that should be helpful, that course. And no, that feels like you have the knowledge and skill set to conduct that training. You see the importance of it too, and it is important, particularly for young people, entry-level people, have that grounding.
Yeah, absolutely. I don't really like the assumption piece is dangerous,
Yeah.
especially with what the kind of, or as I think as Rose was kind of saying, like kind of, or I think pretty even was like the kind of level of incidences that you kind of can deal with,
Yep.
and the trust that happens with that, and kind of authority that comes with supervising RAs or people guiding those people and making sure that, you know, you're not steering them in the wrong direction.
You bet. Adam, Caitlin did, before she signed off, she had a question in the chat here. Probably you, Holly's off here, but you were doing this actually, working full time, taking another course. You did the internship in the capstone. You took 3 courses.
So I'm probably not the best one to ask because I took 5 courses.
Oh my golly!
I took 5 in the fall and 5 in the spring.
Yeah, I thought you got through awfully quickly.
So I finished I will finish on Friday. I will be done.
Wow. So it is doable.
It is doable and working full time. I have a very supportive wife that I probably owe her a vacation, but it's been great. It's been very doable. It takes a lot of budgeting, and it takes a lot of weekends too. I mean, that's probably where it ends. Really saying is, I'm very fortunate that the majority of my job is 9 to 5, except when I'm on call. So I'm able to kind of balance knowing when I'm done at the end of the day. So I'm not having to grade papers like some others maybe at night. So that's definitely a benefit.
So you took 5 courses in the fall and 5 in the spring?
Yes. I got lucky. I think the 5 in the fall were probably, I don't know, maybe they just coincided better. I think I found that it tends to not be as bad as you would think, as far as weeks tend to just be off. Like, you know, it's not like this big assignment's due in this class and the big assignment's due in this class all at the same time. So they tend to actually kind of be off a week or 2.
That's good.
And so it ends up being very doable.
That's good to know. You know, for particularly for Karen Paulson in the future, that it is possible. I'm not sure we designed all the courses so that with that in mind, but if you did it, obviously you're the bright shining example of that.
Well, it's very possible. I mean, I did really well. I was all A's and a A- last semester.
Okay, it looks like maybe Caitlin's still on.
Yeah, I'm still on. I didn't want to talk over you.
No. Let you ask the question then. So it is possible. And then your other question.
Does anyone have like a recommendation for an elective class? Because that's what I would be doing in the fall, like doing an elective class and then hopefully the capstone.
So I guess it really depends. I mean, one of my electives was the college teaching, but that's just because I thought with career development that would be something that would be helpful. I know that I think that's I talked with Karen about, like, I was just asking her, like, you know, what do you recommend? And she says, I mean, we have a great program. Just pick one of the higher ed classes and you'll probably do fine.
Okay.
I took institutional research, which I like. You know, the 801 is a lot easier than the other one that I take, but I will say I appreciate it a lot. That one's probably a lot more time consuming, but I know you're also math oriented as well.
Yeah.
So that's probably a little bit nicer, but I think it's also important, again, as maybe if you plan on going to upper administration, I think it's really important to understand budgeting and understanding, like, you know, everyone loves tutoring. Like, everyone loves spending money on, you know, a program that might be great and that sees results. But then the question is like, are they really worth what you're spending? And is it really, you know, as marketable as you think? And so I thought that kind of having the skills to kind of look at it, and obviously I can't do it. Like, I am not running SPSF reports. I used to do that, but that's not what you learn in this kind of class. But being able to understand the results, though, being able to look at the chart and graph and just kind of be able to at least have a general idea, is a valuable skill that I will use in the future. And so that is definitely something that if I hadn't taken that course, I probably would struggle more than I would in the future. So I think that, that's also kind of, I think, balancing, it's kind of the point of education, right? It's like, we're not just doing it for the grade or the degree. It's to help build, your professional resume. And I think that I've hopefully built mine where I should, set me up for success in the future. So that's why I took that course.
Okay. Thanks.
Yeah, Caitlin, I think I heard Karen Paulson say this last week to the 490 class that she feels the 840, higher ed 840 student outcomes is very labor intensive, time consuming. So
I think that's one I plan on taking this summer, along with the academic advising, and I can't remember the third class.
Yeah, I'm in the 840 class. That was the one I'm talking about.
Okay.
Yeah, so I do think I'm taking that one this summer.
Yeah, I think she would say that's a little bit more work and than the other higher ed classes.
I did hear that, and that's why I'm doing it in the summer, since I know it's a shortened semester, but I'm off for being teaching. So I was like, well, I'm off, so I can do a little bit more work.
I think you can do it. It's student outcomes. You would enjoy that. And,
yeah.
It's interesting. She's very, very good. So no, I think you're set. I think it's right. The higher ed courses are generally about the same in terms of time commitment required, that kind of thing. And Jamie was nice to say anything I'm teaching, but I'm actually retiring. So after this summer, I'll teach the 490 in the internship class one more time, and then I'm retiring. But I might be, Jamie, the emergency quarterback if they're really if there's a disaster and somebody goes down and nobody else can fill in. I'll be available, as an adjunct. And I'm certainly available to all of you. You can track me down, and if there's anything I can do to offer any advice, and I can always tell you what not to do, not always what to do from my experience. But no, you all have done great work. I'm anxious to hear from Jamie, and it feels like this internship has been a good experience. Jamie, the only thing, I don't have an assignment Dropbox set up in 595. I should probably do that.
Oh, okay.
So email is fine.
All right.
And as long as I get it by Sunday night, if you want to take the weekend, that's fine. So Sunday night, and then I can record the grades next week.
So in terms of a format, you're just looking as some personal reflections and an outline of what we did then, right?
Yes. Yeah, it's just a summary and, kind of lessons learned, skills you developed. If there was like Brittany had a wonderful critical incident, and if she wanted to write that up,
I see.
That would be interesting to hear or see in writing and record that. And it's really, as much for you as it is for me, that's something you might look back on
right.
a year or two from now and say, okay, I'm glad I recorded that and summarized that experience. And then kind of where you think you're going from here. If
right.
the internship was validating of your career path, or it could equally be, I don't want to go in that area. I learned enough from that experience. I don't want to do that kind of thing.
Okay, good.
Well, let me hear from you about what you did.
On that note, I'm glad you said that, because certainly I did my internship and I did program assessment and student affairs for World Campus. And basically what I did was I monitored all their virtual events that they had, and a couple online that were, a couple in person that they were also simultaneously broadcasting online. And I noted how many people attended those events, and then talked to the people who ran those events and kind of gauge their attitudes in terms of how good the event was and so forth, and things maybe in terms of attracting more students to them and so forth that we could do. And I have to say that I know for sure now that I will never, ever go into program assessment after this internship this semester. It bored the living hell out of me, really. I was absolutely not interested in doing that kind of analysis. I was given a static survey. I couldn't even design my own survey. And I, basically talked to people about online presentations and things that were happening that really kind of weren't very interesting, actually, in that sense. So I didn't really learn too much, but as Dr. Loomis said, I learned something that I don't want to do. And I was required to be there physically too.
Oh.
And so I had to just sit there for long hours, really not doing anything, particularly if there weren't any events to be covered. Yet I was still mandated to be there. And that was demeaning, I felt, in that sense. So
yeah, that's too bad.
I didn't have a very good time. But I'm taking another internship this summer. I have a nice advising position that I found with the Division of Undergraduate Studies.
Okay, good.
Summer orientation, and I'm expecting that to be a lot better and more up my alley. I like to be with students, you know. I mean, that's. Yeah. And I was in some cubicle doing, you know, quantitative work on these surveys, which was just not very interesting. I'm sorry.
You're a humanities guy, I can tell, like me.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, I'm not a real evaluation research person. I'll do what I have to do, but yeah. That's a shame.
Well, if we're doing outcomes, I guess assessing students, that would be good.
Yeah, but not events and programs. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Yeah, I'm with you on that. Yeah, it's a shame that they wouldn't let you do it virtually, given that they're so oriented to online. Why couldn't you do it virtually?
Yeah.
You know, we do allow that. The internship guidelines in our program do allow that. So,
and we had some other students that were virtual. I guess I don't know how I got trapped with that.
Yeah.
And I was from Iowa.
Wow. Okay, I'm glad you got another internship lined up then.
Yeah, I do, and it'll all count towards my degree too. We're allowed to get 6 credits of internships. I found out, and that's very nice.
Yes. No, absolutely. I think Rose did 6 credits. I'm pretty sure as well. So absolutely, you can do that.
All right.
I thank you all for sharing. We went a little bit over time. So, okay. The only requirement would be to send in this reflection report, by Sunday.
Perfect.
And then I can record your grade.
Thanks, Dr. Loomis.
Thank you so much for sharing. It's wonderful. You did wonderful work. Congratulations. Those that are graduating.
Thank you.
Congratulations on your graduation. And those that are graduating in August, I'll see you then.
Are you gonna be there this May?
I can't make it. I got to babysit my grandsons.
Okay.
So I've got a commitment, but I was invited, and it'll be great. I mean, if you can make it for the Friday night, this World Campus thing is terrific.
Yeah, I'm coming Friday doing the tour.
No, if you can spend the weekend, then the dean has a special reception. You get to meet all the faculty on Sunday if you can stay for that, and then the ceremony. So yeah, have a great time. You earned it. Man, I'll tell you, we'll be talking about you from years to come. You can do the program in 1 year. You can do it.
Yeah, I can't believe that.
I'm like impressed, and I'm crying over my little 2 classes, and you just and then restructured something. I'm just like, I don't see how's that possible. Like, I had to stop to go over here to eat, and you're just like, just fine.
A lot.
All right. You must have a big S on your chest, Adam, I guess. All right. Well, thank you so much for sharing, and enjoy the rest of your evening.
I thank you. You guys too.
Thanks.
See ya.
Bye.